in the presence of multilateral financial institutions, UN agencies, and Glasgow Alliance for the Zero Net that was held during Egypt ICF in its second edition in September 2022. During the event, the NWFE pillars were discussed and explored. And during COP27 held in Sharm el-Sheikh, November 2022, the international financial institution and bilateral development partners have made pledges under NWFE, the country platform. NWFE is the Egyptian translation of translating pledges. The program seeks to accelerate the implementation of climate strategy and mobilizing the finances in order to support green transition in Egypt. This reflects the interconnectedness between development and climate action. The program was devised after Egypt 2050 climate strategy was issued. The funds needed for the three pillars under NWFE follow close coordination between the partners in order to bring together the partners. Egypt has engaged with a number of parties in order to mobilize the needed finance and to maximize its resources through innovative financing. This includes blended finance, just as NWFE. NWFE was successful in mobilizing the resources and has been successful in maximizing the experience of the different parties. It has also entered into agreement with a number of development partners in line with Egypt Vision 2030 and Egypt Vision for Climate 2050, as well as the NDCs. I would like to call to the stage the Minister for International Cooperation and the head of NWFE platform, Ms. Rania El-Mashat, in order to shed the light on the milestones achieved under NWFE. She will walk us through the different nexus between food, water, and energy, and the role of the private sector in providing innovative finance. Your Excellency, come to the stage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, the Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the members of the Egyptian cabinet, the ambassadors of the partner countries and representative of financial institutions and development partners. I would like to welcome you all today in this key event held under the sponsorship of the Prime Minister. It comes 1 year after our meeting in COP27 in order to showcase the different achievements that have been made under NWFE, the nexus for water, energy, and food. Ladies and gentlemen, climate finance comes high at the agenda of our collaboration. There is an increasing demand for climate finance. However, very few came to materialize. There are $4.5 trillion that are needed in climate finance by 2030. This calls for coordinated and joint actions between the parties. Egypt has launched two initiatives during COP27, including the guidebook for just financing and the country country platform in order to turn from the pledges to implementation. As for the first initiative, the Sharm el-Sheikh Guidebook enhances just financing and spells out the roles of the different parties, including government, the development parties and the civil society in order to strengthen the capacities of developing nations. It also, for the first time, spells out a definition for just financing. It includes 12 just principles, which include the state ownership, governance, and just financing. As for the second initiative, NWFE Country Platform is an example of the multi-dimensional platforms that are based on transparency, as has been adopted by the G20. It is a practical demonstration of just financing and a clear example for maximizing development resources and concessional funding to address resilience, mitigation, and adaptation. This is a translation of the pledges made particularly in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt has been very keen to strengthen the relation between climate action and development. This is clear in our NDCs, which included the harmony between development, sustainable development, the SDGs, and climate finance. NWFE platform includes 9 priority projects, including food, water, and energy that have been selected based on our 2050 strategy. Added to that is sustainable transport as part of NWFE Plus. It is worthy to note that one of the key pillars for the project is to maximize the impact across the sectors to meet the development needs and to strengthen the community abilities to address climate change. This also includes targeting the most vulnerable places according to the national needs. NWFE, in collaboration with the international financial institution and investment funds, made available innovative financing. And as such, the financial structure of NWFE includes consultancy services, feasibility studies, technical assistance, grants, as well as concessional loans and debt swaps initiatives to make sure that the private sector is a key player in the activities. I would like to extend my gratitude to all development partners, including the EBRD for the energy pillar, particularly the president of the bank, as well as the AID and IFAD for the water and food nexus, as well as the EIB for the third pillar. I would like to thank the private and to the other private sector and the other parties. The COP27 was a celebration by the international community. As international efforts were made, a number of agreements and MOUs were signed in order to start our journey towards the implementation of these ambitious projects. Egypt has made a joint statement with Germany and the U.S. in order to commit to our efforts in the energy sector and our NDCs. I would like to share with you some of the achievements and milestones achieved by Egypt along with the partners across NWFE. On energy, the project includes 3 major components. First, decommissioning 5 megawatts of coal-fired power plants, as well as generating 10 gigawatt of renewable energy. And in coordination with the EBRD and other partners, as well as the competent agencies, 2 out of 12 power plants were identified to be commissioned, and 40 million grant was dedicated to that purpose. A number of renewable energy of 3.7 capacity were committed, and a number of agreements with the development partners were also conducted. We have been working on creating green value chains and setting the terms for the B2B transactions. A number of projects of 314 million euros were identified to be financed through concessional loans. And as the state is committed to its indices and has been communicated in the joint statement, and our target to create 42% of our capacities from renewable energy. In July, we have entered into an agreement with Germany to boost these efforts. And as Egypt is implementing its green hydrogen strategy, we have been working with the different partners, which led to technical assistance being provided by the EBRD in order to play a role in this strategy. We have also been working with the European Union to export natural gas to Europe. Accordingly, the EBRD has set aside 80 million loan to be channeled to the Suez industrial zones.
Speaking about the food nexus, and based on the international experiences, Egypt's platform for NWFE sought to provide innovative funding for the implementation of the relevant projects in irrigation agriculture projects, so that private sector will be engaged. And all the efforts led to the technical qualification, and we enhanced the integration through linking similar projects in order to tap into the operations and to receive funds and assistance from the partners. To this, we formed also joint work teams. We also identified the geographical scope for all the projects according to the prioritization made by the Egyptian state and the national strategy, and the just distribution between different areas with a special focus on the poorest areas. Also, this includes benefiting from the technical assistance provided by the partners, including EBRD and the World Bank, in order to finalize the technical design of agro-food transition, craft, and agriculture water management, Crown. We also provided the needed funds for the technical studies of the projects, benefiting from the grant coming from EBRD in order to conduct the studies of the North Delta Adaptation Project. Speaking about resilience in remote areas and the poorest areas, Islamic Development Bank provided advisory services in order to conduct pre-feasibility studies and appointed advisors and consultants. Speaking about water, this comprises 2 projects, desalination using renewable energy and expansion of solar energy irrigation projects. In this regard, the African Development Bank provided technical assistance and financial assistance for conducting the relevant technical studies for the 2 projects through 2 grants from the Technical Assistance Fund, which is affiliated to the African Development Bank, in addition to Water African Facility. Also, advisory services needed were provided in order to accelerate the implementation of these projects in cooperation with the private sector. That after finalizing the technical studies needed for the desalination project. Add to this, we also try to benefit from the distinguished international experiences in the desalination area and try to explore the use of solar energy, photovoltaic technical studies were provided in order to tap into distribution systems. Today we will witness the ceremony of the consultancy services agreement for the Sokhna seawater, as we receive technical assistance from EBRD in an attempt to desalinate seawater project according to the system of PPP. Technical assistance was provided by EBRD and IFC to to implement the desalination projects in cooperation with the private sector. Speaking about sustainable transportation, the prioritization was made in cooperation with EBRD, which is the primary partner in this pillar, and with a partnership with AFD. And we are completing the relevant technical studies. Since Egyptian state and government always seeks to implement governance when it comes to joint development ties, a decree was issued by His Excellency Prime Minister to form a technical committee in order to coordinate national efforts with all development partners in order to attract the needed funding to finance the projects of NWFE. And in a declaration of the transparency principles, Ministry of International Cooperation today will launch the first follow-up report, which follows 1 year of implementation in cooperation with all stakeholders under the umbrella of NWFE. And it also highlights the compliance to all just financing principles. I'd like to seize this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, His Excellency Prime Minister, for his incessant support for NWFE platform. Continuing thanks to my colleagues, Ministries of Housing, Electricity, Agriculture, Irrigation, Water Resources, Trade and Industry, Transportation, Egyptian Foreign Affairs for their efforts and continued support. I'd like to thank all technical teams for all the effort they put during the stages of the implementation. I'd like to reiterate my thanks to our international partners for their incessant support and for supporting our climate action agenda and development agenda under NWFE. In conclusion, let us recall back the speech made by His Excellency President during the inauguration of COP27, where he underscored the fact that national program for investment in water, food, energy projects signifies and embodies our aspirations on climate action, and it's a transition from pledges to implementation. Let's together honor our pledges. Let's together NWFE.
وبعد أن استمعنا
After we have heard the important messages conveyed by Her Excellency Rania Al-Mashat, now we will open our session by speaking about Egypt's country platform NWFE, which is implemented by Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy. Please, dear speakers, give your speeches while seated. I'd like to invite His Excellency Mohammed Shakir Barqabi, Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, to give his speech. Microphone, please. our partners in development. At the outset, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to His Excellency Prime Minister for honoring us with his presence today and for his continued support to our sector. I'd like also to thank Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, Minister of International Cooperation, and Egypt's EBRD Governor. I would like to thank her for the coordination efforts put to organize this high-level roundtable. I'd like to thank her for gathering us with our development partners under the umbrella of NWFE. I'd like to seize this opportunity and extend my thanks to Ms. Rino Paso, the President of EBRD, which is our primary partner in NWFE. I'd like to thank her for her presence today, which signifies the commitment of the bank to provide all types of support to Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy to implement this important pillar. It's a pleasure today to share with you the results of the efforts made both at the international and national levels in order to attain the milestones that we will shed light on today. Egyptian state follows an important trajectory, and it is now more reliant on natural gas and on renewables, most specifically wind and solar energy. And it seeks to seize its ideal geographical location to reach out to international markets of green energy. Renewables will increase competitiveness in terms of the cost of economic opportunities and through enhancement of exportation by providing competitive prices. This extends to include freight and manufacturing sectors. This will provide an additional protection for our economy. Renewables will be used to enhance the production of green fertilizers and other products. Dear representatives from private sector and international financial institutions, in cooperation with you and through the energy pillar, we will seek to reduce the emissions by 17 million tons of CO2 annually. In this regard, I would like to explain that electricity sector achieved a significant advancement in attracting the investments in renewables as an integral part of its plan to increase this sector by 10 million gigawatt. Ministry of Electricity managed in cooperation with the private sector to launch projects with 3.5 gigawatt of wind and solar energy, and the investors of private sector are now communicating and coordinating with funding agencies and development partners in order to implement these projects. In this regard, I'd like to refer to mention a few to one of these projects, which has to do with the BOT of 500 megawatt wind farm in the Suez Gulf location. This will be the largest in Africa and Egypt. Another project to operate and build a Komombo solar energy plant in Upper Egypt. Add to this, and in cooperation with the EBRD, technical assistance would be provided to green supply chains, which will help Egyptian state to attract and mobilize FDIs in order to develop multiple and resilient and flexible supply chains with the engagement of the private sector plays in order to create job opportunities. Speaking about the investments that will support the network, a significant achievement were made, and we managed to sign in cooperation with Germany a 54 years loan in order to transfer renewable energy to the grid, to the national grid. The enhancement of electricity grid in cooperation with EBRD and with the support from the EU is now at an advanced stage, and it will be signed very soon. Let me refer also to the fruitful cooperation with AFD supported by EBRD in order to fund the National Control Center in Alexandria. Again, also the grid control center now achieved a significant success. Speaking about cessation of 5 gigawatt fossil fuel plants, this is an important project under the energy pillar NWFE. Ministry of Electricity conducted an initial assessment after the cessation of those plants in 2023, and 2 plants with a capacity of 12 gigawatts were identified. And during the first quarter of the next year, additional plants will be seized as well. During 2023, Arab Republic of Egypt declared its NDCs. This reflects the commitment of the state to the acceleration of transition to low-carbon development trajectory through the enhancement of renewables to reach 42% by 2030 instead of 2035. This decisive milestone followed the joint communique between Egypt, US, and Federation of Germany, which got declared during COP27. Also, the Egyptian party committed to support the pillar of energy with 285 million euro in the form of concessional funding in order to support green transition in Egypt and to transit to renewables. These developments are a completion to the efforts put by the Egyptian state to reduce reliance on the fossil fuel. Let me also reiterate and underscore that green hydrogen is really important for reducing emissions and for enhancing transition to green energy, and it will become a primary global source for energy very soon. National strategy for green hydrogen will maximize Egypt's tapping into its competitive advantages in this sector of green hydrogen. We achieved from 5 to 8% global market share by 2030. Also, green hydrogen production can support the Egyptian industrial energies reserve with a reduced reliance on the traditional sources of energy. Egyptian state put significant effort to support investment in this vital sector. And this underscores Egyptian state interest in this profile. The National Council for Green Hydrogen got established, headed by His Excellency Prime Minister. This will help enhance investments in the energy sector. This plays a decisive role in synergizing the state efforts into investment in this sector of energy. In conclusion, I'd like to conclude my speech by reiterating Egyptian state and government's commitment, as shown by Minister of Electricity, commitment to implement the pillar of energy under NWFE umbrella. This will extend to include our commitment to stop the operation of fossil fuel energy plants. In conclusion, I'd like to reiterate my sincere thanks to Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, Minister of International Cooperation, and the relevant team in the Ministry. I would like to thank them for their incessant effort. Sincere thanks and appreciation to all of you for the earnest work and the valuable efforts. Thank you very much. Peace and blessings be upon all of you.
شكرا دكتور.
Sincere thanks, Dr. Mohammed Shaker, for your speech. I would like to also welcome Odilia Bonasso, President of the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development and a primary partner in the energy pillar.
Renu Basu for her speech.
Thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to be here today. And I want to thank the government of Egypt for the invitation to speak on the progress made on NWFE under the patronage of Dr. Madbouly, the Prime Minister, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, Minister of International Cooperation, and our governor at EBRD, and Dr. Mohamed Shaker, Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy. I'm also happy to see many of our partners represented here today in the room and want to extend my appreciation for their continued support for NWFE. I would like to start off by congratulating Egypt. You are transforming intentions into deeds and delivering strong results already. A year ago, and we've heard about that, Egypt committed to installing 10 gigawatts of private solar and wind energy, that it was $10 billion of private investments. In parallel, Egypt committed to decommission 5 gigawatts of fossil fuel plants. This commitment per se is bold, transformative, and forward-looking. An economy running on green energy is more competitive, more resilient, generates more jobs, and attracts more foreign direct investment. Such economies are also best placed to harness the potential of state-of-the-art clean technologies and are better anchored in international supply chains and investment flows. And Egypt is better placed than most countries to benefit from this transformation with its extraordinary wind and solar resources. Individual elements of green transition, policy, finance, and technical assistance were tried and tested by many. The fact is, for these measures to produce a strong, lasting impact, they need to be implemented all together. This is why NWFE is so catalytic and consequential, because what sets NWFE's energy pillar apart is its holistic approach to systemic change. It combines these elements strategically and fosters a multi-stakeholder consensus involving local energy companies, domestic and international lenders and investors, project sponsors, international development partners, multilateral development banks, and, most importantly, key national decision makers. A year into the implementation of NWFE's energy pillar, we can be proud of the results. Egypt made a vital step by updating its NDC in June, bringing forward from 2035 to 2030 the goal of having a 42% share of renewables. Deployment of 1.8 gigawatt of renewable capacity attracted around $1.9 billion of private investments. Egypt is also progressing with the first 2 of the 12 fossil fuel power plants scheduled for decommissioning. All along, Egypt's national leadership has been key, and it has allowed us to aim high. We are keen to showcase these results to inspire similar green transformation stories, to explain that green transition is at the core of competitiveness and resilience in the next decades. I want to thank Egypt's development partners, many of whom I see in this room. Together, we mobilized $1.5 billion in grants, concessional, and other finance. This will strengthen Egypt's energy grid, unlocking billions of private renewable investments and ensuring a just transition. Egypt has already signed the first-day swap with Germany for grid enhancement investments. And we are working to develop a green value chain that can localize industry and create green jobs. As the lead MDB for NWFE's energy pillar, we at EBRD value the trust placed in us. At the launch event last year, I called NWFE energy pillar a transformative step in Egypt's green transition that can inspire others to travel the same road. Country sector platforms and comprehensive approaches to green transition growth, to green growth transition, will figure prominently at COP28 in the context of the private sector mobilization to bridge the global climate investment gap. Through multiple events and panels, NWFE energy pillar will figure prominently and will make all contribution to the NWFE energy pillar proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame Renou Bassou, for your word.
Madam Representative of the BRD, for your speech. Now we will play a video on the major achievements on the energy pillar since COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh so far.
شغال في محطة كهرباء وسط الدلتا بالصمت التربينات، نقلت لصمت الأذانات، كنت شغال براد والحمد لله اتعلمت شغل اللحام.
We believe we will be able to supply power to the grid by 2025, and we are working on the construction. There is very well progress on the ground, and we believe we will be more than 50% complete next year.
We have 77,000 of these steel posts, which is the foundation of a solar PV project. Over this, we are going to mount the PV solar module to generate 650,000 megawatt hour of green energy generation.
والآن أدعو الدكتورة هايكا هارمغارد
Miss Haika, the Managing Director of the CEMED region of the EBRD, to walk us on the achievements made under the energy pillar.
Haika Harmgard, Managing Director for CEMED region at the EBRD, for her speech.
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor and
شكرا جزيلا. أود أن
Governor Dr. Rania Al-Mashad, and also for electricity and renewable energy, Dr. Shekhar. I think usually you say a picture says more than 1,000 words, so we've already had a video actually explaining where we are just 1 year after COP27 when NWFE energy pillar was launched. But I just want to reiterate a few of the elements where we all together made an enormous progress, and secretly, not so secretly in this room, I try to say this is the JETP that works, but it is actually a holistic effort.
فقد كان هذا إنجازا شاملا كما قال رئيس الوزراء عندما اجتمعت الحكومة وكل الشركاء من أجل العمل على تحول أخضر في قطاع الطاقة في مصر. سوف أتحدث وسوف أشرح هذه الشريحة الوحيدة. لقد استمعنا عن
investing in the grid and investing in renewable energy, where we just heard from our clients that they're ahead of schedule in delivering the renewable wind farms. But these are projects that really affect many people here in Egypt. So over 6,000 employees are affected by the just transition and will be reskilled and retrained. And we just saw in the video that some of this retraining has already started. So this is an ambitious program that started last year, but it's not finishing today. It's a 5-year program, but I just wanted to share with you the progress to date. And so if you look at the 3 key pillars, we have made together progress in each one of them. You heard the government, Dr. Sheikha's commitment of 1 gigawatt of decommissioning, so of thermal capacity, so that's the left pillar. We've already seen 1.8 gigawatt of private renewables since COP27 being signed and the financing being dispersed. We see also already over 300 million investments in the public grid identified projects that have been identified since COP27 and have advanced financing with our partners. So if we look at the numbers in investments, so 10 billion private sector mobilization is the overall ambition that Egypt and we as also the lead partner in this pillar have set ourselves. And already we've seen close to 2 billion of private sector finance mobilized in the first year. We're looking at 1.5 billion blended concessional public finance mobilization. And there we've also seen over 300 million of mobilization. And here I just want to talk you through a few of the numbers because there's so many partners here in this room without whom this would not have been possible. So we've heard already innovative instruments like the German debt swap, 54 million for grid investments for critical grid infrastructure under NWFE. We've also seen 45 million approved by the European Union for investments in enhanced connectivity and the transmission and substations evacuating the new wind power. 7 million from the UK for decommissioning of the 1 gigawatt. Then we have a 160 million sovereign financing for grid investment that will go to our board at the EBRD before year end. And then our friends from Agence Française Développement, the sovereign loan for grid investments of 50 million euro is also at a final stage. So all of us together have really also mobilized a lot in the public sector space as well as the private sector space. But maybe one element that is also important and is a bit the glue that links all of this together is the technical assistance that is helping with a number of these key elements that we heard in the speeches. One is working together with the Ministry of Electricity on the decommissioning master plan. So this has been launched. Then we are working together on a just transition action plan, also launched. And then I think that's something that's particularly keen for the Prime Minister is the Green Value Chain Development Plan. So looking at what industries can be part of the value chain to be capturing value add for the green transition here in Egypt. And I see, of course, Walid from the Suez Economic Canal Zone, a lot of it will be in a number of the zones, building infrastructure for the green value chain to capture more industrial value add for Egypt's green energy transition. Then private to private, we are working together with the legislator to launch legislation to make it easier for the private sector. And then finally, grid strengthening. There's a big study that the minister has commissioned that will help identify key further priority projects. So I think we've achieved a lot in just 1 year. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hamgard, for your word. ننتقل الآن إلى محور الغذاء. بالمنصة الوطنية المصرية.
Now we'll move to the food and water pillar. Given the major milestone achieved, I would like to call upon Mr. Al-Qusir, the Minister of Agriculture, to give a speech. Your Excellency, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly, the ministers, members of parliament, members from the international development agencies, from the international financial institution, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend my deepest gratitude to His Excellency the Prime Minister for gracing us with his presence and for sponsoring this event. I'd like to thank him for his support to the agricultural activities. I would also like to thank the Minister for International Cooperation for her efforts in the design of this national project, which is an example for concessional finance and is a boon for resilience in the face of climate change. I would also like to thank all the partners under the food and water nexus. I would also like to thank IFED, the coordinating partner under NWFE, and our key partner in a number of other projects. I would also like to thank the financial institutions who help the agricultural sector and for being very effective in providing the technical assistance. They have given assistance in developing the concepts as a step towards the implementation of projects that strengthen agriculture innovation, particularly green investments. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, climate change is an existential threat to a number of communities. It has become harder to implement the pledges. Adaptation to climate change is becoming more expensive and would lead to the loss of the planet at the expense of the future generations. Most of the affected countries are unable to fund the resilience, mitigation, and adaptation programs. Here comes the need to be committed to the pledges made in order to strengthen the food and agricultural systems to be more resilient. The agricultural activities are the cornerstone of the food system, as it is the most sustainable economic activities and is well positioned to address climate change. It is also well positioned to reduce the GHGs and the CO2. We have 9 projects under NWFE with a particular focus on agriculture activities. We have also paid attention to the most vulnerable communities and strengthening climate smart projects and strengthened the smallholder capacities to be more resilient. We have been working with the teams from the competent ministries as well as development partners and held a number of meetings and field visits in order to put together the relevant data in order to receive the technical assistance. This assistance is provided to the design and implementation of a project. The initial consultations on food pillar have led to the merger of the food and water activities as they share most of the objectives. 4 projects were designed to be implemented according to the agreed timeline with a total investment of $3.4 billion US dollars. 1.7 have already been mobilized. Currently, the National Task Force is conducting the economic and financial studies in order to put together the components of these projects. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to reiterate my gratitude to the Minister of International Cooperation and the teams in the Ministry of Agriculture and the different supporting staff, particularly those who worked on mobilizing green finance. I would like to extend my thanks for your tireless efforts that seek to institutionalize the projects to address climate change with the focus on agriculture as being on the front line. Thank you so much.
شكرا معالي وزير الزراعة واستصلاح الأراضي على كلماتكم.
I'd like to thank the Minister of Agriculture. Now I call on Ms. Gerardine, the Vice President of the International Fund for Agriculture Development.
Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the government of Egypt for inviting the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, to be a key partner in the Nexus for Water, Food and Energy, NWFE. And IFAD is privileged to be involved in NWFE and the profound, significant impacts that it will bring to the food systems and the lives of rural communities. The NWFE program takes a holistic and integrated approach to address the interconnected challenges of climate change, food insecurity, and poverty. To achieve this, NWFE brings together water management, food production, energy solutions to create a framework for sustainable development. IFAD is proud to be a lead partner for the food pillar of NWFE. In collaboration with the government, development partners, and international financial institutions, we are actively designing a portfolio of projects to drive the food pillar forward. One notable initiative is the Climate Resilient on-Farm Water Management in the Nile Valley project, also known as CROWN. This transformative project aims to revitalize the Nile Valley through a more efficient water utilization in 8 governorates, reaching 500,000 fedans across Upper and Middle Egypt. CROWN aims to foster resilience and to simultaneously boost farm productivity and profitability, reaching 6 million rural people, of whom 40% will be women. As the collaboration is at the core of NWFE, IFAD is working closely with other partners to develop 5 other projects that will also build the adaptive capacity and the resilience of farmers. Working together, we will safeguard livelihoods of rural people and ensure food security. IFAD remains committed to the successful implementation of the food pillar of NWFE platform, and we are eager to see tangible results and impacts of our collective efforts. IFAD looks forward to a future where food systems are resilient, energy sources are sustainable, and the rural community thrives in a climate-smart environment. Thank you all for your shared commitment to building a sustainable future where no one is left behind.
Thank you, Ms. Mukshimana, for your word. وبعد أن استمعنا لكلمة السيد وزير الزراعة واستصلاح الأراضي، والسيدة نائب رئيس الصندوق الدولي للتنمية الزراعية الإيفاد. دعونا الآن نشاهد سويا
from Mr. Girardin and the Minister of Agriculture, as well as the representative of the other pillars. Now we have a short video to screen.
Egypt's country platform for the nexus of water, food and energy, pronounced in Arabic as NWFE, which means fulfilling pledges, is a platform which brings together different stakeholders.
NWFE is a flagship program for the government of Egypt and is expected to leverage both public and private sector financing and best practices to support Egypt's plans for a green transition.
مشروع سي لما جه بدأ يبص على التنقيط والكلام ده، بدأ يطور المنطقة وبدأت أدخل دخل كويس أحسن من الغمر. المناوبة كانت بتيجي في وقت معين، أما أنا دلوقتي أما ركبت الطاقة الشمسية بفتح المحبس عارف إن خد ساعتين زمن واجي أغير المية بتاعتي في المكان التاني اللي أنا عاوزه.
Egypt has very good relationships with its development partners. Each one of them has a comparative advantage. If we take a look at IFAD, which is a very important partner for Egypt in projects related to small farmers, to crop resilience, it goes all the way across different governorates in the country.
As a result of the decades of successful partnership between IFAD and the government of Egypt, where we have jointly developed innovative solutions and technologies for agriculture, which now led us to this point where IFAD is leading the food pillar for NWFE.
بالنسبة لتطوير الري الأشجار أو المحاصيل الحقلية بيدي إنتاجية أعلى، عائد مالي كبير، تخفيض في العمالة. بدل ما برش حشائش كل مثلا 15 يوم مرة هرش في الشهر مرة.
It is not concentrated in one location. There's a diverse geographic reach. Many governorates are being tackled.
The food pillar has 5 projects, and we have already started designing the first one, which is the Crown, and it will be covering 8 governorates in Upper Egypt, reaching about 6 million people. We have received requests at IFAD from governments to support them in developing similar programs, especially from countries in Africa. We're very excited at IFAD and looking forward to replicating this model at a global stage.
والآن نستمع لكلمة السيدة دينا صالح.
Listen to the speech of Ms. Dina Saleh, Regional Director of the Near East, North Africa and Europe Division from IFAD.
Prime Minister, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thought you already heard me on the video, so I didn't need to make a further speech. But this is truly a momentous occasion where a bold vision, through passionate and strong leadership, is translating into reality. And I really would like us to applaud and congratulate the government of Egypt for pushing all of us partners to think together and collectively to be able really to transform our nations, and especially now with this remarkable platform to transform Egypt's transition to a green economy. With that, I am honored to present an update on the progress that we have made in steering the NWFE food pillar. IFAD, in collaboration with the government of Egypt, and here I would particularly like to single out the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation under the leadership of His Excellency the Minister, Mr. Sayyid Al-Qasir, as well as the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation under the leadership of Minister Engineer Hadi Swalem, as well as our strategic development partners, where we are overseeing the design of 6 projects into a comprehensive and strategically aligned portfolio. As you heard, IFAD is leading the development of the climate-resilient on-farm water irrigation management in the Nile Valley, which is known as the Crown, which is currently in the design phase and scheduled for operationalization in 2025, with the primary objective of enhancing the resilience of rural households through efficient water use, driving farm productivity, and ensuring profitability. As you heard from our Vice President, we have committed in IFAD an investment of $120 million for this first phase, and Crown aims to cover at least 500,000 feddans and benefiting 6 million farmers in Middle and Upper Egypt. The components of NWFE food pillar of the Crown will include climate resilience through irrigation infrastructure, resilient and inclusive value chains, and policy support, reflecting IFAD's commitment to comprehensive and sustainable development. As you can see as well in the presentation, we have the Climate Resilient Agri-Food Transformation Project, which is the CRAFT, led by the World Bank in the Nile Delta, which is currently in the design phase and slated for operationalization by 2024. CRAFT aims to enhance climate resilience for agri-food producers through innovative practices and data analytics by developing a nationwide agriculture information system. While the resilience for most vulnerable and marginal regions is led by the Islamic Development Bank and currently in the concept node stage, this project focuses on climatically vulnerable areas, including Giza and the New Valley, with a mission to enhance farmers' livelihoods, build resilience, improve nutrition, and boost productive capacities. Lastly, the feasibility study for the adaptation of the Northern Delta affected by sea level rise, led by the European Union and the European Investment Bank, commenced on November 9th. This study addresses the impacts of rising sea levels, focusing on identifying financial challenges, assessing the legal framework, and developing pre-feasibility studies for selected projects in the North Coast and Nile Delta. Beyond these projects, the collaborative efforts showcased within the food pillar stand as a testament to our collective dedication to transformative change in Egypt's agricultural sector. In record time, our multilateral partners came forward with a pledge of $2.5 billion. And this is just the beginning. IFAD's pivotal role in assembling financial commitments and coordinating with the government of Egypt, led by the Ministry of International Cooperation, and here I'd like to acknowledge the active role of Her Excellency the Minister Rani Al-Mashad, and in close collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation and Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, as well as our development partners, have been instrumental in shaping this refined project portfolio. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that an essential element of any successful partnership is the private sector. And I'm pleased to announce that tomorrow, like we did with the multilateral partners, we will be launching the roundtable with the private sector to engage the private sector and also to be able to drive their commitment to participating with us in NWFE. As we move forward, I am confident we are forging a path toward resilient, inclusive, and sustainable food systems. And with that, I thank you, and let's NWFE together.
Thank you, Mrs. Saleh, for your speech. والآن ننتقل إلى محور المياه بالمنصة.
Now we'll move to the water pillar. And in light of the developments made under this pillar, I would like to call Mr. Hani Swalam, the Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, to deliver his speech. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, the ministers, the development partners, ladies and gentlemen, the water and irrigation pillar is fraught with challenges, most notably population growth, water scarcity, as well as climate change. Climate change in Egypt are not only limited to what happens within our parameters. 98% of our water come from 10 countries. So what happens beyond our borders has a really serious impact. This is added to the warming planet and the rising sea levels. This means that the water challenge in Egypt requires concerted efforts between the agriculture and energy sectors. It also requires collaboration, finance and technical assistance. As a matter of fact, all the challenges that have been spelled out are included under NWFE. NWFE provides cross-cutting assistance as well as financial support. Therefore, we had to utilize this country platform in addressing a number of water challenges. We have a portfolio of projects that we can showcase today. Take Crown, for example, that seeks to strengthen agricultural practices to boost resilience. This is a collaboration between the Ministry of Irrigation and Agriculture in order to improve climate adaptation. Craft, where IFAD comes as a key partner, as well as World Bank, focuses on resilience and the establishing of an early warning system. This system is one of the low-hanging fruits for climate change, not only in water and agriculture, but also the water and energy nexus. And here I would like to stress the support that we received from the Arab Fund that helped strengthening agriculture powered by solar energy. There are a host of other projects. As I said, we received technical and financial support, which encourages the private sector to engage in the water projects. For a very long time, it was never attractive to the private sector. But with the financial and technical support, the private sector could help localize the manufacturing of photovoltaic panels and which power pumping stations. The private sector are also partner in the modern irrigation practices and technology. There are large amounts of water that are being reused where the private sector could provide the required technology, the hydroponics and aquaponics and desalination projects. Last but not least, NWFE in its current state has become in and of itself a good practice that could be replicated elsewhere. It is possible to cooperate with the Ministry of International Cooperation and the partners in order to provide the trainings to African and other developing countries for replication, aware initiative that was born out of COP27 focused on capacity building, particularly that Egypt is the president of the Arab Water Council. Ultimately, I would like to thank His Excellency the Prime Minister for his ongoing support, as well as to Dr. Al-Mashat, her team, as well as the development partners. Thank you.
شكرا لمعالي.
Sincere thanks, Your Excellency, Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation. Now we will listen to the speech of Mr. Mohammed Al-Azizi, Director General of Region Development Integration and Business Delivery Complex, Northern Region, AFDB, African Development Bank.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, members of government, members of development partners working with us in this very good initiative, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first to congratulate the government of Egypt for establishing Nexus on Water, Food and Energy, NWFE, platform, which aims to expedite the implementation of the country's climate agenda. As you know, as the population continues to grow and urbanization accelerates, the pressure on Africa's water, energy and food resources will be inevitable. Egypt is not an exception and hence, in my view, the wisdom of NWFE. Through the Nexus Water, Food and Energy program, Egypt is demonstrating enviable leadership on how countries' climate goals can be achieved while guaranteeing the development needs of its population. Specifically, the water pillar includes the following 3 projects. The first one is water desalination using a renewable energy project, whose objective is to construct 5 desalination plants with a total of capacity of 625,000 cubic meters a day. It will benefit to 4 million Egyptians and ensure adaptation and use of fresh water shortage. The second project is scaling up solar pumps for irrigated agriculture projects. And the third one is improving agriculture climate resilience projects. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as the leader of NWFE's Pillar Water, we have already reached out international financing institutions to establish the level of interest. We have interest of $2.38 billion, including $121 million in grants against a target of $1.36 billion. So we are over our target. These figures confirms the interest on NWFE water pillar, and water is everywhere. And in further collaboration, we have mobilized all over 14 IFIs. Let me briefly talk about the status of implementation of the water pillar. The bank has recruited consultants to support part of its upstream work on implementing the desalination plant, including preparing detailed concept paper, scoping process, and preparing terms of references of technical and feasibility studies. As Dr. Rania said, the bank has mobilized 2 grants from African Water Facility and medium-income countries to prepare technical feasibility studies. On the other hand, we acknowledge the progress made by donors, EBRD, IFC, and Sovereign Fund of Egypt on other 20 water desalination projects. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2022, the African Development Bank has approved Gabal Asfar wastewater project. with the aim to reuse it for irrigation. Also, in addition, the bank has prepared proposal this year for 50 million to support another expansion of Abu Rawash, also to reuse for irrigation. This is a good example of Nexus projects. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the bank also has embarked on reforms to support Nexus programs. In passing, for example, the national law that authorities for the use of wastewater in agriculture. Also, in supporting green transition in key sectors of the economy, including smart agriculture and irrigation. Finally, I will thank the leadership of government and the international financial institutions interested in the NWFE water pillars, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. El-Azizi, for your speech. والآن ننتقل إلى محور النقل المستدام بالمنصة الوطنية المصرية لبرنامج نوفي بلس. وفي ضوء التطورات التي تمت في هذا المحور الهام أدعو السيد الفريق مهندس كامل الوزير وزير النقل لإلقاء كلمته، فليتفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيد الأستاذ الدكتور مصطفى مدبولي رئيس مجلس الوزراء، السيدة الدكتورة رانيا المشاط وزير التعاون الدولي، السادة الوزراء، السيدات والسادة ممثلي المؤسسات الدولية شركاء التنمية. في البداية أود أن أتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير لكافة المشاركين في مبادرة برنامج نوفي بلس، والتي تأتي في إطار تنفيذ الاستراتيجية الوطنية الشاملة للتغيرات المناخية 2050. وفي هذا الإطار أود الإشارة إلى أن مساهمة مصر من الانبعاثات الكربونية في العالم تقدر بنسبة 6% بما يعادل 300 مليون طن سنويا، بالإضافة إلى أنها تعد من أكثر الدول المعرضة للمخاطر الناتجة
one of the countries that's vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And also the transportation sector is considered to be ranked the second for the energy consumption, the production of carbon emissions, and transport contributes to 23% of energy emissions and 16% of the total emissions in Egypt. In the year 2014, the amount of global warming emissions reached 48 million tons of CO2 annually, and the studies and reports showed that in case of absence of transport sustainable plans, global warming emissions would increase to reach 124 million tons by 2030. Thus, it was a must for the state to work on changing its national programs as well as adopting sustainable programs accordingly, an objective of reduction of CO emissions.
There has been over 8 million tons of reductions in GHG emissions through the adaptation and mitigation plans as part of Egypt Vision 2030 and Egypt 2050 climate strategy, all of which seek to establish green transport systems, including the monorail, the underground, the rail system, and the regular public transport, as they seek to move towards more green, eco-friendly transport systems. NWFE Plus has adopted a number of projects that have become part of the ministry framework, which include the first underground extension, the Abu Qir railway system, the 10th of Ramadan railway system, the Damietta railway system, all of which lead to a reduction of 1.10 million of emissions per year. I would like to thank international cooperation and all the development agencies, which is a strategic tool to strengthen our fruitful cooperation, particularly in the transport sector. This comes through the joint finance and the provision of technical assistance. I would like to remind all the development partners to adopt this initiative and to consolidate visions in order to achieve a sustainable and green transport strategy, and to provide green finance that would help the world move to a low carbon and low emission sustainable transportation system. I would like to thank Your Excellency El Mashat and her team for the success of this initiative. Thank you so much.
شكرا معالي.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister of Transportation. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Gelsomina Vigliotti, Vice President for Mashriq Region, European Investment Bank, who is in charge of an important pillar under NWFE Plus.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, Minister Al-Mashat, Minister Al-Wazir, Ministers, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I'm honored today to represent the European Investment Bank, the largest international public bank owned by the 27 European Union countries. Our visit to Egypt this week does not only demonstrate the enduring partnership between the EIB and this country, but also provides an opportunity to inaugurate the new EIB regional hub in Cairo. This builds on 2 decades of EIB presence in this country and our engagement over the past 4 decades, where the EIB has provided more than 15 billion euro for priority public and private investment across Egypt. The EIB's commitment to Egypt is unwavering, and the inauguration of the EIB regional hub in Cairo is a symbolic representation of our dedication to fostering economic development and prosperity. This hub will serve as a center for collaboration, innovation, and the pursuit of sustainable investment that align with the needs and the aspirations of Egyptian people. 1 year ago, at the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, an historical milestone was reached with the signing of the Green Transport Partnership Agreement and other agreements under NWFE. The EIB is honored to lead the NWFE Green Transport Pillar and to help to coordinate IFI's engagement for transport under NWFE. We will use our unique experience gained from providing more than 125 billion euro for transport investment across Europe, Asia, Africa, Latin America, and here in the Middle East over the last decade. Investing in sustainable and green transport is essential, not just for climate action, but also for economic growth and social progress. Better and more affordable transport creates jobs, spurs growth, and enables better and more inclusive access to opportunities and markets. This collaborative effort involved 3 Egyptian ministries, the EIB, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, and the French Development Agencies, AFD. The agreement outlines, coordinates, and supports substantial overall financing totaling 3.5 billion euro in the transport sector until the end of the decade, including a significant 1.5 billion banking from the EIB. I'm pleased to report substantive progress in implementing the NWFE Green Transport Pillar, in particular concerning preparatory and feasibility study phases. The financial commitment is pivotal in unlocking investments in sustainable transport, crucial for enabling urban and regional travel, reducing pollution, and mitigating carbon emission across Egypt. Over the past year, our transport partners have identified 2 transformational projects that will reshape the landscape of transportation in Egypt. the extension of Line 1 of the Cairo Metro, and the expansion of the Alexandria-Abu Qir Metro in both east and west directions are ambitious initiatives that align with our shared vision for sustainable development. Additionally, the EIB is actively collaborating with partners to support the upgrading of the Tanta-Damietta-Mansoura rail line in the Nile Delta. These projects are poised to benefit millions of passengers each year, significantly improving both connectivity and accessibility. As we look ahead, the EIB reaffirms its commitment to the NWFE Climate Investment Initiative. Building on the visionary partnership unveiled at COP27, we are ready to contribute our unique technical and financial expertise to unlock transformative transport projects that improve lives and create opportunities for millions of people across Egypt. By working together, we not only deliver on our commitment to climate action, but also pave the way for sustainable development that will leave a lasting positive impact. In conclusion, the EIB stands shoulder to shoulder with Egypt and its international financing partners. Allow me to thank you, Prime Ministers, and all of your colleagues across government for the leadership shown during the COP27 last year and the successful launch of the NWFE program. As all partners gathered here today recognize, supporting climate transition across sectors is crucial for both Egypt and our planet. Our collaboration is not merely a financial investment, but a commitment to a shared future, one that prioritizes sustainable development, economic growth, and the well-being of the people of Egypt. Together, let's us embark on this journey towards a brighter, more sustainable tomorrow, and let's NWFE it together.
Thank you, Mrs. Vigliotti, for your speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, now having listened to the different speeches by the government, the IFI and development agencies, on the concerted efforts made at the national and international levels under NWFE and NWFE Plus. Now we open the floor to an exchange of insights. I call upon Dr. Yasmin Fouad, the Minister of Environment, to give her speech. Thank you so much, Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, Prime Minister, and the head of the National Council on Climate Change, Dr. Mashat, Minister for International Cooperation, the representative of the private sector and development partners. Since Egypt has hosted the COP27 and launched NWFE, and now that we are 10 days away from COP28, I do not want to repeat any messages that have already been made. This journey has been launched when we were asked to update our indices under the Paris Agreement. The way that these projects were designed was to meet the most basic needs for Egyptian citizens. Transport, water, food and energy are of paramount importance. And there came the inspiration for the project with a balance between adaptation and mitigation. We heard in the speeches by the ministers and the representatives that the private sector was not attracted towards these projects. at an international level, and as we are about to go to COP28, I would like to focus on the takeaways from COP27. We are proud to have hosted this conference with a focus on just transition. Just a transition is not a hollow word. We cannot overnight put an end to ongoing projects. There must be a just transition, an opportunity for developing countries to make use of this project. Recently, the OECD report mentioned that the 100 billion in pledges were mobilized with the 67% channel to mitigation and less than 40% to adaptation. 67% is closer to what Egypt has as its share of the transport emission. So it is not strange that we included under NWFE the largest share of emission producing projects. Egypt and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Environment preside over the group, bringing together the Emiratis and the European partners. And we noticed that the adaptation financed has been doubled, and there is a focus on the localization of technology. That was a main demand by the different signatories to this agreement, that whenever we talk about finance, the adaptation while ensuring localization of technology, because the more the basic needs are met, including the food, water infrastructure, the lesser the damages that are called for. In summary, I would like to thank the UN agencies and the international partners for their support to NWFE. It could be replicated, and we could provide assistance to other countries. The developing nations are mired in higher levels of debts. I hope that we will not leave the COP28 while we give the countries the option either to spend the money on development or on addressing climate change. This is a shared responsibility. As developing nations, we will put in place the projects that will meet the needs of our citizens, and the developed nations should transfer the technology and exchange expertise to be able to tackle the most existential threat, which is climate change. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister of Environment, for your speech. Now we listen to speeches of representatives from development agencies and from private sector. Kindly, dear speakers, we will appreciate your commitment to a 2-minute period for your speeches. We'll start this part by a recorded message from Ms. Chrysolo Zakharopoulou, Minister of State for Development, Francophonie and International Partnerships, France.
Madam Minister, dear Rania, Excellencies, dear friends and colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank you for organizing this roundtable on the NWFE platform. Most of us were at your side in Sharm el-Sheikh for the launch of NWFE during COP27. Today, I'm delighted to see the huge progress that we made together to implement your plan and your vision. The NWFE platform is actually the perfect example of the partnership-based country platform approach that France supports and sustains. It is based on your national priorities. It brings investors together and coordinates their action to support your ambition and your roadmap. It goes across sectoral divides and drives climate action from all corners of the economy. It coordinates and attracts both public and private funding. Despite a very tough regional and global context, I'm impressed by the resilience of Egypt's climate commitment. For this sake, NWFE is a clear catalyst. It carries on significant progress. The publication of a new national contribution increased ambition for renewable energies, innovation with green hydrogen. The NWFE model already inspires and spreads around the world. It shares many similar features with the Just Energy Transition Partnership that France and other countries support in South Africa, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Senegal. And I'm fully committed to spread this model of country platforms to other geographies and other challenges, as for example, the protection of tropical forests. As part of our strategic partnership with Egypt, France is firmly committed to working with you. At COP27, we announced €100 million in support for NWFE's energy pillar, and we committed to participating in the dialogue on other sectors too, like transport. Today, I am pleased to confirm that France delivered on its commitments. We approved last month a €50 million project to strengthen the electric grid in the Alexandria region. This is benefiting to 9 million people. This is enabling your ambitious plan to develop 10 gigawatts of renewable energy. In this venture, France works in the Team Europe spirit. With €10 million in grant from the EU, it is one of the flagship projects of Europe's Global Gateway Initiative. Let us make the most of the current momentum. Let us accelerate investing. Our work is on good progress, but is far from complete. On top of its current commitments for the energy pillar of NWFE, France would also like to support the water supply and food security pillars. Ladies and gentlemen, in this troubled and violent world, we need collective success stories, and we need to show that we can keep progressing on crucial long-term issues such as climate together. From Sharm el-Sheikh to Dubai, I'm convinced that NWFE is one of the great success stories that we need to tell at COP28. You can count on France to make it iconic. See you all in a few days.
والآن ندعو السيد مايو ساندر رئيس قسم الشرق الأوسط وشمال
Mr. Maya Sander, the head of the North Africa from the Republic, the Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Maya Sander.
Madam Ministers, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. It is an illustrious gathering indeed here today, and I think it shows that 1 year on, we still have a lot of energy in the energy pillar, but also in the other pillars. Thank you very much. Germany feels very privileged to be part of this important initiative. It is important to Egypt, but it is also important to Germany because it is a significant contribution to global climate action, and I think that was reflected in the number of speeches we have heard here today. Let me just, since I only have 2 minutes, raise 5 brief points on Germany's contribution. First of all, why are we joining, or why did we join last year? And I think we joined because we saw in NWFE an important partnership. And the short of the long is, more climate ambition means more international support. That, for us, was the essence. And how did it play out? I think the one signal that Egypt sent out a year ago was the commitment to update the NDC. That was far from guaranteed, and I think the ministers have already explained it was a big step at the time, and we wanted to meet that and also send a signal, we give more support, and that's where we pledged quite a lot of money at the time to show this is real, this is not just talk. And the money we pledged was, I think we had 250 million roughly, and it's grants, loans, and debt swaps. And maybe I can just make a pitch here for debt swaps as a potential tool to support climate action. I think it was quite prominent in the discussion quite some time back, but we feel it's quite a well-suited tool to support climate action in a context like NWFE. We are also here 1 year on, and we are days away or weeks away from COP28. A message we want to send out is fast implementation. Because, I mean, we all know we constantly have to justify, when is it going to happen? You promised a lot. And the message we want to send out, and I think the EBRD statements already give examples of that, but I want to maybe reiterate the German example. We have signed a little bit over 50 million debt swap, and with a little bit of luck, a few days after the COP, I understand, we will sign for another 50 million, a combination of grants and loans, that would put the German contribution alone to 100 million in 1 year. And I think, let's be honest, a lot of my colleagues in the ministry said, this is not going to happen, no way. And why has it happened? And I think I can take the opportunity that the Minister of International Cooperation, Rania Mashad, it is because of you, and really thank you very much to make that happen. That is quite significant. We are engaged in what we call the green corridors. I think they're different names for the same thing. It's about the grid, because we feel it's the essential enabling element. Because if you have a lot of renewable energy in remote areas, but you need the green energy on the Red Sea, the energy has to get there somehow. And therefore, we need a smart green corridor. And that's where we are engaged in, where we have started to commit funds, and we will commit more along with other partners of Egypt. And finally, a point that is very important to my minister, that is the social dimension of the transition to a green economy. We have heard a lot already about what we call just transition. For us, this is the social dimension of transition to a climate-friendly world, and I'm very happy that it is so prominent in this program. We've seen it in the video that was shown early on, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sander, for your speech and for staying around the 2 minutes. الآن أدعو السيدة إلينا بانوفا المنسق المقيم للأمم المتحدة في مصر لإلقاء كلمتها. Allow me to welcome the UN Resident Coordinator in Egypt, Mrs. Elena Panova.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Dr. Rania Mashad, Excellencies, dear partners. I would like to congratulate the government for having the vision, for having the climate change strategy that put the framework for this excellent initiative. And also I would like to congratulate all the partners that were involved to put this vision into actual action. And I was very, very pleased as United Nations Resident Coordinator to hear, and I think almost all speakers put, a highlight on a just and equitable transition. Because transition will happen in Egypt. And it is important that we make sure that this transition is indeed just and equitable and it doesn't leave anyone behind. So as United Nations, there are 3 areas that frame our support to NWFE and beyond NWFE when we talk about just transition. First, technical support for a just and equitable green transition, and you know that technical support is on bread and butter of the UN agencies that work in this area. It includes, of course, a lot of analysis and assistance for mitigating the possible negative effect of transition. And here I will mention reskilling, training, of course, of workers that potentially could lose their job, and also working with young people and the future generation so that they fit to what is coming, as a job market to them. Second, very important, upstream policy advice and support, because without having a conducive environment for all the projects that are under NWFE along the nexus on water, food, and energy, we will not be able to ensure that all these policies and investments directly have an impact on the development outcome and the development and the sustainable development of the country. And the third area, and I will conclude with it, it's leveraging technology and digital solutions to support the just transition across the nexus, water, food, and energy. And very soon, with the minister, with Dr. Rania Mashat, we will be co-chairing ideation workshop where we will have a discussion on how digitalization and how technology solutions can support the further implementation of the NWFE projects. So with this, thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone on this 1 year of implementation of NWFE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Panova. الآن أدعو السيد السفير كريستيان بيرجر رئيس وفد الاتحاد الأوروبي بمصر لإلقاء كلمته. Allow me to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Christian Berger, head of the EU delegation in Egypt for his speech.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, ministers, colleagues, partners, and friends of NWFE. If we want to withstand current and future pressures, we must ensure the integrated and sustainable management of water, food, and energy to balance the needs of people, nature, and the economy. An increasing world population, climate change, and water scarcity are long-term risks that we need to address through enhanced cooperation. Food security and energy supply are interdependent, particularly in regions close to each other, such as Europe and North Africa. Egypt has been impacted severely by the recent crisis, but allow me to commend the extraordinary efforts made by the government and highlight the response and the resilience shown by the country and its people. The NWFE initiative is an example of how ambitious reform and investment can be achieved, and it is great to see how the international community and many European financial institutions have embraced it. In the energy sector, the European Union pledged a 35 million grant during COP27. Work is ongoing to support grid reinforcement via establishment of control centers. This support comes in a wider context of an ever-increasing European Union-Egypt partnership in energy, with 2 memoranda of understanding signed last year, for which the European Union is putting additional funds to implement the Egyptian hydrogen strategy and unlock the full potential of Egypt's renewable energy production. When it comes to the water and food pillars, with the European Investment Bank, we are leading the project on adaptation of the northern delta affected by sea level rise, which is at the stage of pre-feasibility. This support goes hand in hand with other projects in the agricultural sector that will integrate and leverage NWFE. More than 200,000 families will benefit from an integrated rural development program that will be launched this year in line with Haya Karima, and for which 30 million euros in grants have been provided. Through the Food and Resilience Facility, 100 million euros in grants will increase Egypt's storage capacities for imported and locally produced cereals, provide support to small farmers through a program of enhanced mechanization, and develop new varieties of seeds more resistant to drought and salinity. In the water sector, the European Union and Egypt have a long history of cooperation. We just come from a very successful Cairo Water Week, and we are working hard to prepare a joint declaration on water with the objective to support Egypt's water security through a sustainable management of limited water resources. In difficult times, we must face our short-term challenges and prepare for the more long-term ones. Energy, agriculture, and food are key examples of how the concept of sustainability that is benefiting today from the natural capital without hampering future generations can successfully be put into practice. We are deeply convinced that the green transition towards sustainability, understood as a long-term project, can be achieved through firm and consistent steps. It constitutes one of the key answers to the global and geopolitical uncertainties that we are facing today. NWFE can serve as a model to be followed in other regions. So, Mr. Prime Minister, allow me to extend our congratulations to Minister Mashat and her great team for the first year of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Berger. والآن أدعو السيد ستيفاني ويمبرت المدير القطري للبنك الدولي في مصر واليمن وجيبوتي لإلقاء كلمته. Allow me to welcome Country Director of the World Bank for Egypt, Yemen and Djibouti, Mr. Stephanie Wimbert. Please welcome. We would like to listen to your speech.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Prime Minister Madbouly, Your Excellency Minister Al-Mashat, dear Excellencies Ministers, dear NWFE partners. Egypt is the gift of the Nile for Egyptians. You all know this sentence. This is how the Constitution starts. And right there is the idea of a nexus between development and climate. Today, as we reflect on the goals set at COP27, celebrate progress made, and look forward to COP28, my colleague Sheikh Oumar and I want to commend the government of Egypt for the vision embedded in NWFE and for the strides made so far. Climate action is at the core of the World Bank's country partnership framework with Egypt. Last year, we completed with the government the Egypt Country Climate and Development Report, which underpins many of the ideas and the policies of NWFE. Since then, we've made progress in our railway program with the Ministry of Transport and started the Cairo-Alexandria Trade Logistics Project, bringing clean solutions to transport. I'm very excited about the progress made under our climate-resilient agri-food transformation project, or CRAFT, at the nexus between water and food, a project that the ministers, as well as Dina, already mentioned. And I'm thrilled that many partners here today are interested in co-financing this endeavor. We are working on Egypt's access to the Transformative Carbon Asset Facility, or TCAF, a results-based climate and carbon finance facility aimed at supporting the decommissioning of power plants, energy transition, and carbon market readiness. We're also coordinating partners in the preparation of Egypt's investment plan to access the Climate Investment Fund's Nature, People, and Climate program. We're also supporting the government, most notably the Ministry of Environment, the financial regulatory authorities, in a pioneering carbon markets strategy. A robust domestic carbon finance ecosystem will mobilize more global and domestic private capital into decarbonization projects. Today is a day to celebrate partnerships, the vision of the government and Your Excellencies, the leadership of my colleagues in the agencies leading each pillar, the spirited engagement of thinkers and private sector. After declaring that Egypt is the gift of the Nile for Egyptians, the Constitution adds that Egypt is the gift of Egyptians to humanity. This is the ultimate invitation to partnerships. IFC and the World Bank takes pride in being a partner in NWFE. Count on us.
Thank you, Mr. Wimbert, for your speech. الآن أدعو السيد السفير جاريث بيلي سفير المملكة المتحدة في مصر لإلقاء كلمته.
UK to deliver a speech.
British Ambassador to Egypt for his speech.
معالي الرئيس وزراء دكتور مصطفى المدبولي، معالي وزيرة دكتور رانيا
Prime Minister Madbouly, Excellency Mashat, Your Excellency the Ministers.
كلام أقل ودل. Congratulations on COP27. Standing achievement. We were proud to hand over to you, and you took it so far. Congratulations on NWFE, which, as my good friend Heike said, is the jet P that works. And you should be extraordinarily proud that you created this, homegrown and excelling with extraordinary amounts behind it. We like to see ourselves as your green partner, not just now, but for as long as you like. We have about $250 million committed as your partner. 7 of those are through NWFE, and $1 billion we estimate of private sector commitment. My final thought is you go now into COP28 to hand over the baton. And the question on all of our minds, of course, is what additional climate financing can there be, particularly in adaptation? This is a question which is commanding increasing urgency, and we support you in that. We stand by you at COP28 as you come in as the designer, inventor of the Loss and Damage Fund. And as we replenish our commitment to the Green Climate Fund to the amount of $2 billion, We acknowledge also the need to make reforms to the multilateral development banks and how they approach these issues. بالتوفيق وألف مبروك. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Bailey, for your speech. الآن نستمع إلى كلمات ممثلي القطاع الخاص الذين شاركوا.
Now we will listen to the representatives of the private sector involved in the pillar of energy. Ms. Riham Al-Beltagi from Orascom.
Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here actually, I'll be very brief to share the experience of the private sector engagement under the NWFE program. We are actually the sponsors or owners as well as the contractor of the first 500 megawatts wind farm under the 10 gigawatt program under the NWFE platform. Personally, we look at this project as a great project with a very good recipe for success, where a lot of stakeholders were vested and did a lot of effort to the success of the project. The government of Egypt, represented by the Ministry of Electricity, as well as the Ministry of International Cooperation and the MOF Finance as well. The project provides clean energy and paving the way to Egypt target of 42% renewable energy by 2035. Actually, our representation in this project as sponsors, we also had partners with us, being Engie and Toyota, representing foreign direct investment into the country, bringing equity, supporting the project. And along with them, also, there was another pillar of success, financing partners, where this project was also the first co-financing between EBRD, JBIC, and NEXI. And this helped mitigate the risks of the project, the profile, make it economically feasible, a lot of successes. We're very proud of this project. Transmitting Egypt into the green energy, creating jobs, and we look forward to further engagement in similar projects where all stakeholders are vested and provide the right success factors. Thank you.
شكرا للسيدة ريهام.
Thanks to Mr. M. Beltagi for your speech. Now we'll listen to Mr. Hassan Ali Hassan, the country director of Aqua Power. Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, esteemed ministers, thank you for inviting me. I'll try to be concise as much as possible. In our company, we started, operated 9 years ago, and we have a deep faith in its potential. Under NWFE, we have 1.1 gigawatt project. And as Dr. Shaker said, that will be the largest renewable power plant. We also have solar power generation under this initiative. We have signed the MOU on the production of green hydrogen, and now we are in the process signing the framework agreement very soon. So we have ambitious plan for large project. We are the architects of the NEOM project. We would like to replicate the same experience here in Egypt, even at a larger scale. Again, we are fully confident in the Egyptian economy and market, and we hope that we will continue our operations here. We are planning to invest 10 billion USDs in different projects, in addition to the ambitious project by Ministry of Electricity to add over 1.1 gigawatt of wind power. Now that we have listened to these positive messages by the development partners and on the different efforts that have been made since its launch, I would like to thank Dr. Rania Al-Mashat and her team for her tireless efforts and engagement with the private sector development partners and for all of their achievements. I would like to thank the government of Egypt and the private sector as they work for the benefit of our beloved country. Now I give the floor to Dr. Rania Al-Mashat to deliver her communique with a stress on the success story of NWFE as it reflects the role of development partners.
Sincere thanks, Dr. Mustafa, Your Excellency Prime Minister. I'll be as brief as possible. In September 2022, we have been in the new administrative capital with all the partners. I would like to thank them for being present during these moments. This sheds light on their commitment and the commitment of various institutions to the efforts of Egyptian government under your leadership, where we honor our commitments during COP27. This is the conclusive communique where several development partners are mentioned here, all of which shared drafting this communique. There are various comment of all the efforts put by the Egyptian government represented in legislative amendments, mobilizing finance and drafting clear vision through definite projects. And there will be a commitment to support national efforts during the next period. We have the two versions, English and Arabic, of the national follow-up report, and it will be published on our website. And this is the Sharm el-Sheikh guide for just finance. We will have ahead of us a year of cooperation, international cooperation. And through the past year, we honored our pledges and our commitments during COP27. These projects will be under implementation till 2035. Together with all the partners, we will go on implementing these projects. We would like to thank you for honoring us with your attendance. Thanks to all partners. Thanks to everybody who contributed to making this platform a success.
A very strong commitment from all our development partners, and the communique reflects the international recognition of what Egypt has been able to accomplish over the past 12 months. The country platform was an idea. We were able to implement it together, but this represents the commitment of the Egyptian government, the clarity with respect to the projects, and the credibility that the Egyptian government has with its development partners. Thank you very much.
شكرا معالي وزير التعاون الدولي على كلمات.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister of International Cooperation. Before we conclude today's event, we would like to listen to the speech of His Excellency Prime Minister.
Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, the Minister for International Cooperation, the Minister of the Egyptian Cabinet, Mr. the head of the ERBD, Ms. Viliotti, the Vice President for Mashriq region, Ms. Muki Shimana, the Vice President of the International Fund for Agriculture Development, the ambassadors and representatives of the foreign missions, representative of international financial institutions, private sector, esteemed guests. Allow me to thank the dear audience, and I commend the successful joint collaboration, which is a main pillar in development, finance, and cooperation. Climate change impacts have been haunting us every every minute. Environmental footprints have featured high in the environmental projects and development projects. Sustainability will help improve the future and welfare of the future generations. The member states of the United Nations have agreed on one vision and ratified the Paris Accords. It sets out the measures that are required in order to salvage the planet from a number of environmental catastrophes. Some of them have materialized over the past years with calamitous impacts, particularly affecting the most vulnerable communities. The cost of addressing climate change surpasses the capacities of developing nations. This requires joint action and putting in place innovative finance. This stresses the role of private sector in accelerating green and sustainable transition. Apart from the strenuous efforts made by developing nations to address multidimensional challenges, there is still a wide gap between climate change and development activities. There are common interlinkages between climate action and development, as both are interconnected. Egypt, being the host of COP27 of UNFCCC in Sharm el-Sheikh, has launched a host of climate initiatives that would catalyze more sustainable and effective climate action, with stress on moving from pledges to implementation. These initiatives include the Sharm el-Sheikh Guidebook and NWFE, in addition to the 2050 climate change strategy, the UN 2030 agenda. NWFE, the country platform, has underlined the interlinkages between food, water, energy, and transportation in order to maximize the development efforts made that seek transition to low carbon and low emission development pathways. If we have we are still hopeful that we are able to overcome the impacts of climate change. Egypt seeks to scale clean transport and shift in structural shift in laws and regulations in order to boost sustainable investment. And as we are committed to this communique, we reiterate our commitment to accelerate the climate goals set forth in the climate accords and 2050 climate change strategy, as well as the 2030 agenda. We should recognize the interlinkage between sustainable development and climate change, with stress on just financing. This message is addressed to public and private financiers. The NWFE, as an example, could be replicated internationally and regionally in order to meet the national climate goals in order to transition towards low emission and low carbon strategy.
In technology-based solutions within the structure of climate action, and the importance of engaging private sector in achieving SDGs. This event is the best evidence of the international community's confidence in the Egyptian development and policy vision. And Egypt is determined with firm steps, despite all the international challenges and regional ones. It is determined to complete the development plan in various sectors and the national strategies for cooperation between bilateral and multilateral development partners, which extends to cover several important national initiatives like Decent Life, Takaful and Karama, and Universal Health Insurance Program, Education Development, 100 million healthy lives, social housing, women and girls empowerment, and supporting SMEs and private sector, the National Program for School Nutrition, and others. I'd like to seize this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to development partners from international agencies and our partners under NWFE. I'd like to thank them for our cooperation, most notably EBRD for the energy pillar, African Bank for the water pillar, and IFAD for the food pillar. Continuing, thanks for the efforts put by the relevant national agencies, most notably MOIC, Ministry of International Cooperation, for the effective cooperation, transparency, and following various and innovative trajectories and developing reports with all the outputs which was published on an NWFE website to highlight the achievements. Actually, Egypt treasures its partnership with you, and we seek to make this partnership more thriving in a manner that serves all people in Egypt. Peace and blessings be upon all of you. Thank you, Your Excellency, Prime Minister, for your speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to witness now the signing ceremony of the consultancy services agreement for the Sukhna Sea water desalination project between SZ Zone and EBRD. The signing ceremony will be done by Mr. Khalid Hamza, head of EBRD country hub and head of SZ Zone. Mr. Khalid, kindly, you are invited. Mr. Haina Hangard, Dr. Rani Al-Mashat, Odel Renu Basu, and His Excellency Prime Minister, you are all kindly invited to come to the podium.
شكرا لحضراتكم. Thank you, Dr. Heimgard and Madame Renu Basu. ندعو الانضمام إلينا على المنصة السيدة
We invite Ms. Gelsomina Vendiotti, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, and His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouly in order to witness the ceremony of EIB's regional hub for MENA in Cairo. This signifies the strong strategic ties between EIB and Egypt, which dates back to 1990.
شكرا لدولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Prime Minister. Continuing thanks to Her Excellency, Minister of International Cooperation, and Ms. Gelsomina Vendiotti, Deputy President of EIB. I would like to thank you all for honoring us with your attendance. Sincere thanks and our deepest greetings.